Hello, I'm Sophia Jessica, and welcome to the Fan Carpet. Hello, I'm Sophia Jessica, and I'm here with Tatjana, and we're going to be talking about the new movie. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, tell everyone a bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Tatjana Anders, and I am an actress slash filmmaker, and I've just finished filming Your Reality, which is a short film about gaslighting. It's a psychological thriller, and we're currently in post-production, which is really exciting. And I'm just here to talk a little bit about the film and answer a few questions, I guess. Yeah,
exactly. And no, it looks amazing from the teaser trailer, and just wanted to start off about what actually is gaslighting and what can you tell people about the subject and what they should look out for in this abuse.
Yeah, so gaslighting is, as you say, a type of psychological abuse or psychological manipulation where someone tries to make you doubt your own perception of reality. So a situation would be where you, for example, had an argument with your boyfriend or partner or whoever, and the person would then go around and say, no, we never had this argument. What are you talking about? You're imagining things. Something's wrong with you. And they do it over a really long period of time. So first you're like, well, I remember but we did have that argument, you know. But they are so they know exactly how to say things, and they're just so convinced about their lies or their truth that you actually start doubting yourself. And usually people who do that as well, they're kind of like eager to please. So it doesn't happen to everyone, because some people, they just don't take, other people's bullshit. They're like, I know what happened. But the problem arrives when someone is like already prone to doubting themselves, and when a situation like this arrives, rather than starting to question the other person, they start questioning themselves, and
it can drive someone crazy, and
it can.
And the thing is that it's actually a form of it is not just a horrible act, but it is actually a serious matter, because if someone starts to question their insanity, they sort of start thinking about what else could be going wrong with them, or makes them their esteem lower, and it's just not fair, because that's not the situation that's happening. Their situation is being altered through someone's lies.
Yeah, absolutely, exactly. And usually what happens actually is that the person, the victim in this case, often gets really depressed, and obviously their self-esteem is super low. And usually what the gaslighters do as well, they try and distance you from your friends and family. So they're kind of like manipulated around that you can no longer trust anyone, and they kind of like be like, oh, your friend told me that you're insecure and that you're really bad at whatever, at your work, or if it's a colleague, and they start placing these like ideas and thoughts in your mind that nobody is supporting you from your friends or family, and that's when they are actually the only person in your life who you can, funnily enough, rely on.
So you start just depending on what they say is your reality.
Exactly. And you can't cross-check it against anyone else, because they try and distance everyone from you.
Exactly, and that's one of the reasons why they do it, also to control the situation better.
Yeah.
And it's just not a nice nice situation. Anything else. But the thing is, for the initial idea of the film, why was it that you wanted to tackle this subject? What did you want to show?
I did read about gaslighting first time probably about 1.5 years ago. Actually, my boyfriend read about it, and he read this article, and he showed me because I was kind of like browsing ideas for a film, and then I read it and I was like, wow, something similar actually happened to a friend of mine, and I was like, I really need to make this film just because I know how it feels, and I know how distraught she was afterwards, and she was really struggling to kind of like get her life back together, and her trust in people was broken because she was like, wow, if he could manipulate me like that and I couldn't see through his lies, you know, maybe I'm just incapable to distinguish truth from lies as a person. Maybe, you know, anyone can tell me lies and I will never be able to figure out whether they're telling the truth or not.
Scary, yeah.
So scary. So I saw her kind of like, you know, trying to get out of this mindset and getting her life back together, and it was really difficult. I was like, wow. And once I sort of started working on it and doing more research into it and talking to other people about it, it was crazy to see how many people have either heard of it or have experienced it or have friends who have experienced something similar.
That's the thing. I mean, to be honest, even I have had that experience firsthand.
Wow. Okay.
And the thing is, with this situation, it's just... It can be a string of many other things as well. So it can start out with gaslighting and then go deeper into, you know, further things like physical abuse, or luckily I didn't have the physical abuse, but I had the mental kind of abuse, gaslighting. It started that way. So, you know, when we had, as you said, you know, with arguments, when we had an argument, he would say, no, that's not what happened. That you know, you're not remembering things right. You had a very bad memory. And I was thinking, I've always thought I've had a good memory. But so I started to think I had a worse memory than him. At first it was sort of, maybe he has an excellent memory. So I kind of put more, trust in him. Like, oh, he probably remembers things better. And then it kind of went worse and worse, like actual situations when I witnessed him doing, bad things and like cheating and lying and, he was also on drugs and he was telling me he wasn't on them, yet I saw proof, and he said, no, that wasn't the case. You're remembering that you must have dreamt it. You know, you dreamt it, and that's not what happened. He said, and he would cover up the evidence, show me again, and it wasn't there. And I was thinking, what's going on? You know, no, this is what happened. But then I was like, I do have realistic dreams, so maybe it could be this. And so I questioned myself, and I normally didn't.
Oh my god, wow.
Even though I was confident in myself before that, it does change the way you see things and the way you see yourself, the way you see them. And I just remembered, I hadn't even heard about gaslighting before, but I saw this film, Girl on the Train.
Yeah.
And that film really, really helped me, because I was like, that exists. Like, I hadn't thought about this. There's a situation where the man is actually, you know, telling, it sounds silly because it's so simple, like your man tells you lies and, you know, you don't know what to believe, but the fact is it's a form of a manipulation, so it's not as easy to detect if you haven't really come across that idea of, oh, he's constantly lying to me about things. Like, why would someone do that?
Yeah.
But they do it, you know, to control you, they do it to get their own way, to feel powerful, so many reasons, but whatever the reason, it's not good enough. It's not something that people should tolerate, and it's so important to have that information out there so that, you know, people can realise, oh, you know, if I don't trust the situation, maybe it's not me that's in the wrong, maybe it's something's going on.
Yeah, that's exactly the reason why we are, you know, creating this film, to raise awareness. As you say, you know, the problem is when you are in a relationship, either with your boyfriend or your boss or anyone who is trying to manipulate and gaslight you, you're so deep into it, and you kind of like always want to see the good in the people, and you're like, you know, sort of like trying to make excuses for them as well, because obviously you're also emotionally invested in the relationship, and you're like, well, you know, I'm sure he means it well, or she, and that's why it's so difficult, I think, and you have to almost see your situation from the outside to be able to relate to it, and as you say, you know, like, oh my god, yeah, this exists, and maybe that applies to me as well. And the other problem with gaslighting as well is, as you say, it's a lot of it is quite sort of like questioning memories. And the thing with humans in general, with our brain, is that we're just not very accurate in remembering memories anyway,
Yeah.
you know, and I couldn't tell you what I did last Saturday. Maybe if I check my calendar, I was like, oh yeah.
Reminders.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I did. But like, just out of nowhere, you know, try and remember what you did like a couple of weeks ago on a specific day.
Like what colour clothing you wore, you know, and it's just hard to pinpoint. And I think the more you remember something, the more it gets altered, actually, in fact. So when you think back to a situation, every time you think back, the way you remember it is how you remember it the next time. So it gets altered.
It's like
so
a
much.
Chinese whisper, and honestly, it's been proven what you say is right, that every time we recall our memories, something gets, you know, twisted or changed slightly, and obviously that's why people like that can take advantage of these things.
Exactly, and it makes it worse if, you know, that person is, you know, I mean, of course you have to lack empathy to do something like that anyway,
Yeah.
but if it makes it worse if that person maybe specialises in psychology, or they are in a higher position of power than you, or, you know, maybe they're very popular among people and they're very liked, and you just go with what other people see of them. So, you know, in my personal experience, he was very charming. He was very, you know, he was very liked by people. I thought, you know, if they are telling me he's a lovely person and that he, you know, he tells the truth, you know, then it made it harder for me to question him.
Because you're like, oh, maybe something's wrong with me. If everyone else seems to like him and I'm the only one. But this is actually what they do a lot of times. I think they have this really, really good sort of side where they're super charming and really nice to everyone, and to you in the beginning as well, because they, you know, they kind of have to lure you into their spider web, and then they can start doing their thing, and
it makes it harder to get out once you've already kind of been caught in that trap. So
yeah, they do something, it's actually, there is a term for it. They do something called mirroring a lot. So when you first meet them, they kind of like, it's funny to say because it almost feels like they're these like evil people, but I don't think actually they do it consciously. They do it subconsciously, where they start mirroring your interests and ideas, and they're kind of like interested in the same things that you do.
So you think they're perfect.
And exactly, and you kind of like end up falling in love in like the perfect version of yourself. And we as people like, we're like, oh my god, this is like me, but you know,
like the opposite
gender of me, kind of a thing. And yeah, lots of people fall for that, and then once they know that they've got you, they're like, oh, okay, now I can start, you know,
start the process really
of putting you down.
And to be honest, it is the same with you know, psychopaths, kind of even rapists and deeper things that, you know, no one really likes to talk about, but it's important to talk about. Like, for example, you know, people who are attracted to children, things like that, they use techniques to, it's called groom someone, to manipulate someone, to
grooming as well.
It is a process, and they do it consciously to get what they want, no matter the cost of other people's lives. And that's what makes it so horrific, because they have no consideration for how it's going to affect other people. It's just purely about what they want, and sometimes it's just something as simple as they fancy entertainment today, so they will do this, or maybe it's a long-term goal, or maybe some people it's just simply for, you know, their, you know, sexual gratification. They do things like this because that's what pleases them, but meanwhile it really affects someone else's life. And it should definitely be brought up, and I think you're doing a great job, you know, putting that out there and making people more aware, because with awareness you can do more things about it and
absolutely
stop it sooner.
That's the idea, for people to be able to see the signs and recognize them and start to question whether they're genuinely happy in this relationship or not. Because you can do something about it, you know, and I think that's the first step of like being able to take the power back and not allowing the other person to treat you in this way.
Yeah, and it is hard, you know, to step out of a relationship. You know, it is hard, but recognising that you need to start stepping out of it is the first step. Just recognising that this is not right, this is not healthy, it's toxic, you'll be happier long term without them, even if you can't see it at the moment. If you just make the first steps towards getting out, I think that is just very important. And sometimes it can be triggered by a film, by a radio station talking about it, by someone saying that this has happened to them or they're in this situation, can really help other people start making the same moves of getting out.
Definitely.
So I'd like to just talk about with you working with the director, and how was your experience?
Yeah, it was really good actually. So the director is Tatjana, and he came on board because he really liked the script. And I was like, wow, yay, because I spent a long time working on the script and doing the research and, you know, reading lots of books. I've got this app, it's called Scribed, and it's kind of like a similar one to Audible, where you just, you know, you pay like a monthly fee, and then you can download as many audiobooks and books as you want.
Very useful tool.
Very, very useful, yeah. And I had probably like 10 to 15 books about like abuse and like narcissism and gaslighting. I know, and I was like, gosh, if anyone saw my like history of like, you know, saving all these books, they'll probably think that I'm in big trouble. But no, it was just for research. So yeah, what happened actually, I was playing around with the idea of directing it myself, but I also really wanted to play the lead role, and I've done a short before this one, which is like just a really you know, short, only 5 minutes, which I've directed, and it's been reviewed and received really well. It's called Couples Therapy, more like a comedy, not much less dark than this one, but I directed it, and I found it hard to do both, you know, directing and acting at the same time.
A lot of work.
It's a lot of work. You want to kind of like make sure that the shot is good, you want to make sure that everything works fine. And so when Top told me that he's interested in directing it, I was like, yay, this is so great. And the thing is that he came in with really strong ideas of like the visuals and the camera angles, and he's got his own style. And I was like, wow, this is really cool, because we don't want to be just, you know, some generic film that you can see anywhere. Like a short film is really where you have the freedom to experiment a little bit with the camera angles, make it look a bit more edgy and interesting. You'll see it when you see the film,
I'm
but
excited. Sometimes
the angles feel a bit off, and the whole idea is that, you know, you, for example, you know, I'm turned this way, but then we see a lot of space behind me, but not what's in front of me. And usually, like, classical way of filming is the other way around. You know, you have your face, and then you have a lot of space, kind of like for where you're looking towards to. But the reason we did it is to actually kind of like subconsciously put the audience in this like uneasy, you know, state of mind when you're like, oh, something's off, but I can't really put my finger in it. So we're kind of like, we're starting it really nice and fluffy, and then the more it disintegrates and like craziness, the more we have the subtle signs and things worked into the film. So it's really interesting how we've tried to integrate the artistic way of filming it to go along with the story and
of what actually happens.
What actually happens, exactly.
Yeah, and it sounds really great. I mean, especially, you know, starting out fluffy and then kind of taking the audience through that journey on hand. It's important for them to see it realistically and not something that's you know, sugar coated. It's important to see the true darkness of how this can turn out. But about your journey of putting everything together, you did a good job of covering some of the process. Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to add on the filmmaking or even post-production?
Yeah, I mean, we started it off as a Kickstarter campaign because we needed some budget to get it all together. I was also really lucky to get an executive producer on board really early on, who was his name is John Clarkson, and he's been an absolute star for giving us a big chunk of money to, you know, get the crowdfunding process started, because it's actually really tricky as well, even, you know, to ask people for money. But it was so nice because a lot of people were super encouraging, and they wanted to support the topic, you know, and help us raise awareness. So that was really nice. How it turned out, and we managed to crowdfund it successfully, which I was like, oh my god, I couldn't believe it. Yeah, it was so good. And then the actual filming process, I mean, I had a really amazing team on board. We had AJ Lamb, who was helping me produce it, but also was first ADing. Lots of people were like doubling up in their tasks, I guess. Which was really sweet.
Lots of teamwork.
Lots of teamwork. You could tell that people were putting their heart and soul into it, and I think that is just no money can buy that. You know, when people are really wanting this project to be successful, and they do whatever they can to kind of, you know, bring the story along. And the only problem we had were the locations. It was ridiculous. We had very limited time to sort everything out, and we were really struggling to find. We had to have like a flat, which was our main location.
Right. And
I was looking in London, and it was just impossible. It was very expensive, and obviously, indie project. We were like, but it's for a good cause, and they're like, I don't care, £1,000 per day, and we're like, oh man.
Oh my goodness.
But we ended up finding this really lovely flat in Woking, which wasn't too bad. Yeah, it
not
was
far from me. It was in Guildford.
Oh, really?
Next door,
yeah, exactly. I was the lady who Olivia, who rented it out to us. She was really a lifesaver. She's like, yeah, it's okay, you can film in here. We're like, yay. And then we had to find a coffee shop, and it fell. The schedule of everyone fell in such a way that we had to film it on a Saturday. And Saturday, either the coffee shops are closed, or they're completely packed. And
they close earlier as well, and
but we were like, because it was we had to film dialogue in it. We had to film it outside of opening hours, because there's no way we can, you know, interact with people, like customers walking in and out. So we were like, could we please, you know, like open it up earlier, like at 7 a.m. and shoot it through until like 11 a.m. or something. So we had a really short window of time, where we had to get it all done, and we had to film 2 scenes in there as well, kind of like a bar scene. So we had to like dress it around really quickly. And my director, he was like, "Oh, we're never gonna do it all in like 4 hours," and I was like, dude, we don't have any choice.
We're just gonna have to.
We just have to do it. And they kind of like pulled it all together, and we were super prepared. We knew exactly what shot we're gonna shoot when, and we made it work against all odds.
Yes, it all came together nicely, and I mean, preparation is key as well. A bit of luck, and
I swear, I no way I would have been able to do it without Top, the director, or Jake, the DOP. They were so brilliant. I'm so lucky to have them on board. And also the other person, it was really key to the, you know, obviously the producer AJ and Lottie, who has done sort of like dressing the room and costume designing. She was really kind of like putting it all together. It was amazing.
Sounds like you have a really great team,
and super lucky.
I'm sure a lot of people are really looking forward to seeing the final result. Of course, you know, the team itself, and wish you all the best with it.
Thank you so much.
Great project to put forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the crowdfunding, obviously we had to give away a bit of a story, but actually it'd be more interesting to keep people a bit more in the dark. Because I initially really wanted. I think it's more obvious now for when you watch the film, but initially I wanted to be very subtle for who the gaslighter is and who is being gaslighted, because I think that this is one of the things that are kind of like a really subtle in real life, and that's how I wanted it to come across as well.
Okay.
So who knows?
Yeah. The fact that you did so much research and read about the books, it must have been like eye-opening.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe to kind of add to the audience that even if you haven't found yourself in an abusive situation or a situation of a friend or family member that is going through abuse, just kind of pick up a book about abuse so that at least you're aware, so you don't get trapped in that cycle.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing. I think we should put that message out there to kind of, I mean, with the film we'll do that anyway, but I think it's important for people to just read about domestic abuse or any kind of relational abuse, because once you know the signs, you can kind of, before it's too late, you can kind of step away and be like, oh, something not right about that guy, he's kind of very controlling, and or he's kind of, it seems a bit like gaslighting or a bit like this or that, just to become aware.
I agree with you. I feel like obviously it's a good idea to read about it. There are amazing books out there, and usually it's so funny, but usually we have a very good gut feeling about all these things. It's when we don't listen to it and we're like try and rationalize things and make excuses for other people treating us badly. But usually actually, when it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right, like being with this person. And it's, and the only thing is that it's hard to move away sometimes, to get away from the person that you're invested in.
That's
with
it.
But I agree with you, doing some research about it definitely helps people.
And knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power.
Again, reading, even watching films and listening to radio, I mean anything that talks about subjects, it's just important to be kind of discussed and talked about, because if you keep things in the dark, the darkness can then obviously consume and kind of work its way into people's lives. But if you put it out there in the light, then people can be like, oh, that sounds like this situation, and they can look into it a bit more. They can sort of at least be aware and know what to look for in this person or this situation. So
absolutely,
taboo subjects I think should be discussed, and not in shame, but should be discussed so that it can prevent those things from happening to more people.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that, honestly, I feel like we all are affected by gaslighting in some way or another. If you even, I don't really want to touch too much into it, but if you consider politics and media, we are constantly being told fake facts. And it's, to be able to question these things and maybe don't trust everything that we're being told by the media or politicians, for that matter, is tricky. And some people do fall for that, and they're like, just follow these people blindly and end up making some wrong choices maybe, or having wrong opinions. So yeah, I think we are constantly being manipulated by it's not just up to a single person. I think it's up to big groups and as well. But the thing is, I would say just having that knowledge is just kind of key to kind of helping stop it, helping maybe not for yourself, maybe for your friend. You can sort of, have you looked into gaslighting? Have you looked into, and then they can do their own research and not just trust, one source, use your own experience. Exactly. Do proper research and then build up your own ideas and
trust yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I'm Sophia Jessica, and if you could follow me on Sophia Jessica Rose on Instagram, and Tatjana.
Yeah, so as already mentioned, we're in post-production for our film, so hopefully the premiere is going to be very soon, in a few months. If you'd like to keep updated with our journey, please follow us at Your Reality Film. This is the same username for Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, so I'd love to share with you our journey.
Thank you for joining the fan carpet. Be sure to follow us for more. And thank you very much, Tatjana, for joining us today.
Thank you.
What is happening to me? It's just like the last time. get it. You said I've broken it. Why can't I remember it? I can't remember anything these days. What is wrong with me?
Thank you for watching The Fan Carpet. If you like this video, be sure to click that thumbs up button at the bottom of your screen. And also be sure to subscribe to the Fan Carpet YouTube channels. They're absolutely free and so much fun too. Be sure to check out the official website, thefancarpet.com. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay up to date with reviews, competitions, the latest news, and so much more.